Years before Marvel Studios' epic 2018 movie Avengers Infinity War and its 2019 sequel Avengers Endgame, the Mind Stone was the very first Infinity Stone the Mad Titan Thanos ever got his hands on. It was introduced in 2012's The Avengers, a movie that confirmed he gave it to Loki in the form of a scepter, but it's never been clear how Thanos got it in the first place. Well, not until now, if we assume this theory is correct. It's the theory that suggests this year's Captain Marvel revealed exactly how the purple-skinned intergalactic despot got his hands on it. And that is what this video is all about. When fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe saw that Lee Pace and Djimon Hounsou had been cast in Captain Marvel, as Ronan and Korath respectively, it was quite exciting news for them. We'd seen both characters killed off in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy, Korath by Drax and Ronan by the combined efforts of the Guardians with the Power Stone. But with Captain Marvel being set in the 1990s, this was a good chance to see what led to the Kree pair working for Thanos in the first Guardians movie. But as it turns out, Captain Marvel didn't really care too much about explaining what led to the duo working for the Mad Titan in his attempt to collect the Infinity Stones, despite featuring the characters at key moments in Earth's history. This was particularly frustrating with Ronan, who was of course the main villain in that first Guardians offering, as it would have been a great opportunity to expand on what was a very underdeveloped character, given his key antagonistic debut role. But now that Thanos' master plan has been well and truly explained and executed in the MCU, mapping out Ronan's own timeline in the franchise helps to unearth the reasons for his betrayal of the Kree, his alliance with the prune-chinned villain, and the strange intelligence guiding the entire Kree Empire. Ronan might be inherently ruthless, but the fact is he was undoubtedly lied to just as much as Carol Danvers regarding his own race. He essentially unconditionally and devotedly served an empire that had been built around a lie, and around the Mind Stone Thanos used to begin his war. Yeah, you heard that right. It's become fairly clear that the Kree initially had possession of the Mind Stone, and we'll get to why we're fairly certain that was the case momentarily. When Ronan's aforementioned return in Captain Marvel was announced, whereby he'd be playing a direct role in Carol Danvers and Starforce serving the will of the Kree Empire, imaginations understandably ran wild. It did indeed seem as though the movie would actually serve as a prequel of sorts to Guardians of the Galaxy, directly setting up Ronan's eventual betrayal of his people. Unfortunately, as it turns out, the return of Ronan, and indeed the return of Korath, amounted to nothing more than a couple of mere cameos. But that wasn't meant to be the case. The final version of the movie saw Ronan appearing as one of multiple Kree individuals who were collectively known as the Accusers. The Accusers were a branch of the Kree who were seemingly responsible for the military bombardment of enemy planets. And for all intents and purposes, Ronan was presented as being a loyal member of the group, serving the Kree authority figures with extreme loyalty. And of course, the ultimate authority figure in the world of the Kree was the Supreme Intelligence itself. It's actually been confirmed that Ronan was supposed to have a bigger part, which presumably would have offered some kind of explanation, or at least some kind of hint as to why he ultimately betrayed the Kree completely and became the radical zealot seen in Guardians of the Galaxy. The 2014 movie did provide something of an explanation, with the implication that a Kree peace treaty with the planet Xandar and the Nova Corps was the overriding cause of Ronan's defection. However, in hindsight, at least in the minds of MCU fans who enjoy coming up with theories that might work better than the actual writing in the franchise, there's a definite feeling that something's missing from that story. At the point in the MCU timeline at which Guardians of the Galaxy picks up, Ronan had already abandoned the Kree, been labeled an outcast and pariah, and was seeking a level of vengeance by working for Thanos. Captain Marvel was strongly expected to shed some more light on the issue, but Ronan was introduced as a calm, loyal Kree accuser in the recent movie, which seems to go completely against what we knew we were expecting to see. The movie's climactic scenes with Captain Marvel in Earth's orbit confirmed that even Ronan hadn't been given the whole story with regards to the Kree's motives. Just like Carol Danvers herself, he was only ever given the information required for him to serve the will of the Kree Supreme Intelligence. As an audience, we can see exactly how deep the deception from Jan Rog and the Supreme Intelligence ran, but it's probably fair to say that Ronan didn't. And when the lies were revealed and exposed, it forced him to question everything he both knew and stood for, starting at the very top of the Kree leadership hierarchy. If indeed he did learn the truth about the Supreme Intelligence around the time of the events of Captain Marvel, then his path to Thanos and his quest to collect the Infinity Stones makes perfect sense. One of the things that seemingly helps in shedding some light on this theory is a detail given in the only scene directly involving the wider members of the Kree in the MCU, a scene in 2014 depicting the blue aliens as they existed during the events of Guardians of the Galaxy. During the events of Captain Marvel in 1995, the Kree were depicted fairly accurately in relation to what we know of them in the comics. They were wholeheartedly devoted and subservient to the Supreme Intelligence, which was a synthesized mind incorporating the wisdom and history of the Kree people. In the movie, it was largely portrayed by Annette Bening, as it appeared before Carol Danvers as the person she most admired, the Kree scientist Mar-Vell, who was otherwise known as Dr. Wendy Lawson. The Supreme Intelligence was brutal in its domination, taking advantage of its admired forms to manipulate the loyalty of the Kree further, and violently harming or controlling the minds of those who choose to defy it. But MCU fans don't need to worry about the Supreme Intelligence anymore, as it was no longer commanding the Empire by the time Ronan had come to be known as an outsider and fanatic in Guardians of the Galaxy. Which brings us to the more important scene in question and the following line of dialogue. Scattered riots broke out across the Kree Empire today, protesting the recent peace treaty signed by the Kree Emperor and Xandar's Nova Prime. There was never an explanation regarding why an emperor had come to rule the Kree, or what had led to the Supreme Intelligence being replaced, usurped, or destroyed. But we can certainly put two and two together and come to our own conclusion, and Ronan's path certainly helps us in that regard. He had witnessed the immense power possessed by Carol Danvers, and come to the very obvious conclusion that the Supreme Intelligence had been keeping secrets from him and the rest of his species. At that point, he would want to know more, and subsequently would investigate what was going on. That led to the Supreme Intelligence doing a disappearing act, and Ronan leaving the Kree Empire, resulting in him being branded a fanatic and a traitor. It's at that point that he would have started serving Thanos, with the Mad Titan acquiring the Mind Stone at the same time. At this stage, you've probably figured out what conclusion we've come to based on this notion, and it's the conclusion that the Supreme Intelligence must have been utilizing the power of the Mind Stone. Of all the countless theories linking different MCU movies, it's fair to say this one would solve one of the most lingering questions fans have had over the years, while also generating the least amount of problems and plot holes in terms of continuity and established canon. It fits in with everything we already know about the Mind Stone and the intelligence that seemingly resided inside of it, while not disrupting the timeline in any way, shape, or form. The Supreme Intelligence intentions, its hunger for power, and the way it both interacted with and manipulated its subjects means everything adds up perfectly. It was indeed powered by the same Infinity Stone that had been confirmed to have made Loki more evil and power-hungry than usual in 2012's Avengers movie. And just look at the device that the Supreme Intelligence was using to inhibit Carol's full power. It stopped her from mentally tapping into her full potential.
Control it.
Which even fits in with the comic book description of the Mind Stone, which is described as being capable of being used to manipulate mental and psychic abilities. It also explains which plot thread connected Ronan the Accuser to Thanos the Infinity Stone Collector, and how the Kree fanatic ended up being appointed as one of the Mad Titan's lieutenants, with a ship, an army, and an opportunity for his own chance at revenge. It's unlikely that the Mind Stone would be something Ronan would ever wish to use personally, given its role in bringing his mighty race to its knees in subservience to the Supreme Intelligence. But if he could trade it for a more potently destructive Infinity Stone, the Power Stone, that sounds more than believable. Now, we do know that the MCU novel Thanos Titan Consumed contradicts this particular explanation regarding how Thanos got the Mind Stone. In that particular book, which was written by Barry Lyga and was released in November of 2018 with the intention of filling in a few gaps in MCU Thanos' backstory, the Mad Titan took the Mind Stone from a mysterious being called the Lore Speaker, who lived in isolation near the edge of the galaxy. However, since the book's release, Marvel has made the decision to retroactively render it non-canon, which makes this video's theory a whole lot more likely to be true. The book brought a number of possible contradictions into play with regards to established MCU canon, and regardless of that, an explanation that ties into the existing movies of the MCU is far more satisfying for those fans who don't bother with the tie-in books and comics. The writers of Captain Marvel manufactured a way to retrospectively make Brie Larson's Carol Danvers the inspiration for the Avengers, so why would they pass up the opportunity to also make her story relevant to Thanos and his Infinity War? The Space Stone is central to Danvers' origins and powers, and the Kree wanted to get their hands on it in the movie, so having them worshipping the Mind Stone would actually fit into the story as a whole very well indeed. The theory makes a lot of sense, and we're happy to take it as gospel until Marvel Studios explicitly denies its validity, not least because it adds some serious and much-needed layers to the backstory of Ronan. As things stand, his transformation from a Kree commander into fanatical villain working for Thanos is entirely unexplained. Not only does this theory give us answers to a bunch of unanswered questions in the MCU, it also sheds new light on that iconic black face paint of his. Suddenly, rather than simply being mere war paint, that face decoration becomes one of the best connective details in the history of the MCU. The black oozing from his eyes and mouth serves as a reminder to the Kree of the lies that were spewed while they were serving an Infinity Stone, rather than their people, as they thought they were doing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is soon to embark on its 4th phase, which is said to have a more cosmic flavor than any of the phases before it. So it would undoubtedly be cool to revisit Ronan to see his transition from Kree leader to Thanos' lieutenant. However, that's unlikely to happen, and we're far more likely to see an influx of new cosmic characters in the franchise, such as the Eternals, Nova, Adam Warlock, maybe even Galactus. And quite frankly, we're absolutely okay with that. Do you agree that this is how Thanos obtained the Mind Stone? Did Ronan hand it over to him? If not, how do you think the Mad Titan got his hands on it? Sound off in the comment section below. And don't forget to both like the video and subscribe to ScreenRant so you never miss out on our great new video uploads in the future. See you guys next time!